sense that our population is growing. You can see the difference between 1989 and 2010. Whereas all of the other populations have been shrinking, the Latino population has been expanding from 24.1% to 29.1%. It's growing fast, and it's growing, it's actually going to surpass at some point. It's going to be the majority of the adult population in New York City. We looked at educational attainment by race and ethnicity, by immigration status, and by social class. So just to show you here, for educational attainment, this is the Mexican-American educational pipeline. So just to give you an idea of what's happening to these students, out of 100 elementary school students that start school, only 46 will graduate from high school. Out of those 46, only 26 will enroll in college. 17 go to community college, and 9 go to four-year college. But out of those 26, only 8 actually graduate with a bachelor's degree. What's also interesting is to remember that Latinos tend to go to community colleges very often because I think a lot of us understand why it's maybe closer to home, it's not as expensive. But out of most students who go to community college, very, very few will actually transfer to a four-year college. So when we look at educational outcomes by immigration status, we can see that foreign-born students actually have much lower graduation rates than U.S.-born students. What I found interesting also was that in the Asian population, it's quite high for both of them, and in the for white students that are foreign-born, they actually do better than U.S.-born students. When you look at educational attainment by social class, you see pretty much similarly that Hispanics tend to be in the most commonly in the poverty brackets. So the literature that I looked at talked about different things. Some of the literature talked about the role of schools, but a lot of the literature talked about factors outside of schools, and that's what I'm focusing on. What I found in the literature is that very often parents are talked about in a very deficient way. The things that are always addressed are, there's a lot of poverty, they don't have the language skills, they don't know, they don't understand the American school system, they have the levels of educational attainment, there are too many cultural barriers, these are usually the way they talk about it. They don't have this. And so what is common in all of this is that the frame through which they're judging parents is through a framework that is really meant for white middle-class Americans. So this is the standard that is being used to judge the engagement of Latino parents. I researched by doing interviews, and I wanted to understand specifically how Latino parents perceive their involvement as influencing their children's academic performance. And of course, to identify the social and cultural wealth that Latino parents and students have in New York City. And I wanted to provide useful recommendations on how to leverage social and cultural wealth to a partnership that recently started in Brooklyn that I've been working closely with between a collaboration of community organizations and the school. So these are the schools, the school and the organizations that I worked with, Academy of Urban Planning in Bushwick, Opportunities for a Better Tomorrow, MISTEC Organization, and Churches United for Fair Housing. And they recently decided to get together and develop programs to help address the educational disparities that they found, and specifically with the Mexican population, but they're serving a more diverse group, mostly all Latinos. So my research questions are specifically how do Latino parents perceive their involvement as influencing their children's academic performance, and how might the partnership between Academy of Urban Planning, MISTEC, Opportunities for a Better Tomorrow, and Churches United for Fair Housing influence Latino parent engagement. So as I mentioned, I conducted interviews. This was a pilot study, so it was very small, but I'm planning on spending some time in Bushwick specifically interviewing the parents and the students in that community. The participants that I surveyed were from the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn, so it was a lot more diverse. And my theoretical framework, again, I want to shift the lens from judging parents through through the standards created for middle class, white students, and kind of shift that focus to Latino students. So my findings, Latino immigrant parents in New York City are not very engaged by traditional standards, yet they perceive themselves to be actively involved in the educational and life success of their children, and demonstrate this in various ways. They possess abundant social and cultural capital that can and should be leveraged by school community partnerships. So, of course, in my surveys, I think if we're judging them by this traditional lens, we will of course find that they are very deficient. These are some of the things that my interviews told me. Something that I found that was common among all of the participants was that they all had very stressful lives, they worked a lot, they're very nostalgic of their home countries, and they all talked about the American dream. But I want to talk about the capitals that I found. So I used a framework developed by Clara Yoso, and she expands Bourdieu's social capital theory to include these 6 different types of capital that isn't valued by schools and by most people working with these students. So aspirational capital. This is the ability to maintain high hopes and dreams for the future, even in the face of real and perceived barriers. One example, somebody said, education is what will give you a good future, a good job, the possibility of having the things you would like to have. So you want to be living paycheck to paycheck. If they talk about this to their students and try to build this hope, this desire for a better future. So Latino students have a lot of aspirational capital. Linguistic capital, of course, they speak often more than one language. Furthermore, I found something interesting. In the language of my interviews, most of them spoke Spanish, and one of them spoke Mixteco in addition to Spanish. And they all used dichos to explain what they wanted to say. Dichos are parables that usually have a lesson that helps explain something. So I found this very, very often, just an example of one. When a donkey is thirsty, he must go to the river. And he was explaining about, he was talking about when his daughter needed help for school, how he went to the church to ask for help. And so he said this, and I thought it was really great that they all used this at some point in the interview. Familial capital, it engages in commitment to community well-being and expands the concept of family to include a more broad understanding of kinship. So there are local families. Family has a much broader definition, and it's very strong. So I am running out of time, so I'll go quickly through all of these. Social capital, the networks of people and community resources. And as I mentioned earlier, this man knew that when he needed help, he went to the church because he knew that he would be able to find help there. So they understand where to find what they need. Navigational capital, the skills of maneuvering through social institutions not created with people of color in mind. For example, this is what this person was saying. There's always help in the churches. They always have programs and aid of different kinds. You just need to go to the church to ask. You can ask any of the priests. I have this little problem, and I would like to know if you could help me with something like this and this and this. There will be some kind of help someday. So he was very certain about this. And he knew how to navigate those resources to find what he needed. Even if he didn't necessarily have the money to pay for a tutor, he was able to find somebody. Resistant capital, knowledges and skills fostered through oppositional behavior that challenges inequality. I found this, for instance, one of the students kept on talking about how she was luchando para su futuro. She kept using this word luchar, which means to fight. And she also used it in terms of her schooling, and she felt that she was luchando against the school system. Talk to the students and to the parents about those dreams, but then not just talking about it, give them the skills and help them plan for that. Help them understand what it takes to reach those dreams. Leverage the knowledge of culture and language and incorporating the use of dichos in any type of workshop, any classes, promote strong community networks, and this is something that we've been working on a lot in Bushwick. We found that there isn't a very strong community network. Most of the Mexicans that I have surveyed in Bushwick have no idea where to go for any resource. They seem very secluded. And all of those resources are there, the organizations know how to reach out to them. So I think that we have to try to find ways to kind of connect the two and increase the number of Mexicans taking advantage of the resources in the community.